There's no point in hiding any longer. We have to come out and talk about the severe mistakes that we've made on this channel. When we started this channel, we made one promise out to ourselves. We said we would make highly informative tech videos for an enthusiastic audience. I think after the last video, it's clear to everyone that we've failed. And we're sorry about that. But let's start from the beginning. In our last video, we were talking about the new Dell XPS 15 2020. During this video, we referred to the Dell XPS as a Windows laptop. A Windows laptop. We received thousands of comments by attentive users who called us out on the severe mistake that we've made. The Dell XPS is obviously not just a Windows laptop. In fact, it's a laptop that just happens to have Windows pre-installed on it. But actually, you can run other operating systems on it as well. Now, you might be sitting at home asking yourself, well, what other operating system could I possibly run on my machine? And that brings us to today's video, which is sponsored by... It's actually sponsored by no one because we don't have any sponsors, but we're sponsored by passion and love and our interest in tech. But to answer the question, what other operating system you could run on your machine is GNU Linux. Now, you might be thinking, well, GNU Linux, that's not really an alternative to Windows. Because you might be thinking it's a super complicated operating system which is made exclusively for nerdy programmers. Well, does this look nerdy to you? You might be thinking, well, this Elementary looks really nice, but gosh, I bet it's super hard to install. Well, actually it isn't. The first thing you need to do is go to the website of Elementary OS, elementary.io. The first thing you'll notice, it's a super clean looking website. There's a big blue button where you can download the operating system. Below, there's this link which will bring you to this guide on how to install this operating system in case you feel like we're not explaining it very well on this video. Coco Chanel, the French designer who created the Chanel brand, once said, "The best things in life are free, and the second best are very, very expensive." Well, in the case of Elementary OS, actually it's both, because you can choose to pay for it, or just say you're going to pay $0 for it and get it gratis. So we're actually going to donate $10 to the team of Elementary OS because we think they're doing outstanding work, and hit the download button. While this is downloading, let's clarify some things. You might have heard that Linux is open source software, which is sometimes also called free software. Free does not mean free like the Netflix account of your ex-partner that you're still using. Free in this context means free like your ex-partner's freedom to leave you forever and to run away. In order for you to understand the difference between open source software and proprietary software, you need to understand that there are two forms of computer programs. The first one is source code, which programmers can write and understand. The second one is binary machine code, which is made up of ones and zeros and can only be understood by a computer. To generate binary machine code from a source file, we can use a compiler. The compiler transforms the source file into a sequence of CPU instructions, the ones and zeros, that can be read and executed by the computer. When you're using proprietary software, like Windows, Mac OS, or Microsoft Office, you're only getting the second form, the binary machine code. For the user, this has two implications. Firstly, this means you can't verify what the program actually does, or more precisely, what it does without your knowledge. Like whether it's sending telemetry data in the background, or whether there are other malicious functionalities in the program. Secondly, this means that you can't change the program and you can't redistribute a modified version of the program. Therefore, if you run proprietary software, you have no control over your computer and what the computer is doing. You have to trust the proprietor of the software. You should have the right to control your own computer. Such software can be a large infringement on your personal freedoms. This kind of proprietary software is therefore also sometimes called non-free software, as opposed to free software. Fortunately, Elementary OS has finished downloading. Now we're only 5 steps away from freedom. The first thing you'll need to do is to get a USB stick. So the second step is to create a bootable USB stick from the EOS image that we just downloaded. For this process, you can either use Etcher, Rufus, Image Burner, or the terminal, if you're familiar with that. Links are in the description. And now the third step is to just restart your computer. When you do that, you need to be careful because as the computer is restarting, you need to hit a keyboard combination, which is always dependent on which hardware you're using. Oftentimes it's one of the F keys, like F2, or the delete key. When your computer restarts, select your USB stick as your boot device and start the installation process. The first thing that happens is that the EOS installer is checking whether the software has been transferred to the USB stick correctly. So now we can select the language. We're going to choose English, of course. And since this is an American keyboard, we're going to choose the United States keyboard settings. So there are different install options. You can either try the demo, which means you're actually not installing Elementary OS on your laptop, but you can just use it over your USB stick and you can sort of play around and see if it's for you, whether you like it or not. And then there are two other options. You can go for the custom installation, which is especially useful when you want to partition your disk. But since we don't want to dual boot, we're just going to go for the clean install here. The next step is that you have to choose the hard disk on which you will install your Elementary OS. Since we only have one, we'll just select this one. Here you can choose whether or not you would like to encrypt your data. And if you're using a laptop, we would highly recommend this. Alright, and here the installation starts. A lot of stuff happening right now. When the installation is finished, you remove the USB stick and click Restart Device. And that's it. We've made it. Now we're free. Now the question you should be asking yourself is, what is holding you back from downloading a free operating system and thus from having a completely free, refreshing, and new experience on your computer? But actually, the day-to-day use is really not that different. When you enter Elementary OS, you'll see you have a file browser, which would be the Explorer in Windows or the Finder in macOS. It lets you browse for files in 3 different ways. The thumbnail view is very useful for pictures, the list view is useful for long directories, and the tree view is great if you have a nested folder structure. You all know the struggle. Like when you have a folder in a folder and another folder. The web browser is built on the same underlying technology as Apple's Safari browser. So if you're switching from an Apple computer, you'll probably love this browser. Obviously you can download other web browsers like Chromium or Firefox. For this, you just have to go to the App Center. In Linux, we do not download our programs from websites, but instead we use an App Center. This has 2 reasons. Downloading things from websites is not secure. Also, app centers allow us to automatically update our programs. There are many centralized repositories from providers like Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, Flatpak, and Elementary. You can think of them like the Google Play Store or Apple's App Store. The difference is that you can access all of these different app stores or repositories regardless of which Linux distribution you are using. The App Center is like a browser, which allows you to search apps in different repositories. By default, the App Center of Elementary OS allows you to search Ubuntu and the EOS repositories, which contains apps specifically designed for Elementary OS. These 2 repositories only contain open source programs. However, if there are some proprietary programs that are indispensable to you, we recommend the FlatHub repository for downloading apps like Spotify, Steam, or Zoom. Because this is Linux, you'll have access to all the powerful commands which come with the Unix system. This is a big selling point for developers, but also for people who want to automate repetitive tasks. Another nice thing is that Python is pre-installed, which lets you run your complex programs, like this one that we've made. And down here you can open the settings, where you can change a lot of stuff. For example, you can switch to dark mode, but for me personally, I prefer it to leave it as it is, so I'm not going to change it. The only thing I always do is to disable the pointer acceleration, because I think this is a totally ridiculous feature, which should not be a default setting. But besides from that, there really isn't anything else that you need to change. What I like about the Elementary OS philosophy is that it's all about reasonable defaults. Elementary OS provides you with a working system out of the box, and you don't really have to tinker with your computer. That's it. That's all you have to know to get started with Elementary OS. The last thing we're going to do is to add these beautiful stickers from Unix Stickers. Our favorites, of course, are the Gopher. Then we obviously love Vim. We use it once a day. It's our favorite text editor. We all know and love Tux, the Linux mascot. And of course, we love Python. It's the best program language ever. My favorite sticker is this Linux Inside thing, because everyone that's around you will know this person is not using Microsoft or macOS. This guy is a Linux user. They're all going to be like, oh my god, that's so interesting. Why use Linux? Can we talk about it? And it's just a great conversation opener, and it gets you to meet new people. Okay, I decided to go for the Gopher. And yeah, let me just put that on here. Oh, yes. That's it for today. Hopefully this video taught you some things about Linux and made you consider to join the free side of the force.